We've assembled a virtual line panel once again to talk about the latest in COVID-19 news. I want to welcome an attorney and line regular, Laura Sanchez. She's back with us this week. Hello, Laura.
Hi.
Want to welcome also President of Collective Action Strategies, Giovanna Rossi. She returns. Good to see you.
Hi.
And Crystal Ciarza. She is from Ciarza Social Digital, founder of the company, and she joins us as well. Crystal, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Gene.
All right, guys, here's what's going on. This is starting to get real. It's sinking in here in New Mexico. The numbers are climbing, and our death toll is inching up as well. We have hundreds of cases, no doubt about it. And the governor says New Mexico only gets a C grade when it comes to social distancing. I was a little surprised by that. And Laura, let me start with you. Who's not getting the message out there? Do we know who these people are? They're just not getting the message on this?
I don't know that we know exactly who these people are, but I think that if you spend any time, unfortunately, I have to, I take care of my sister and her medical issues, and so I have to run errands for her and go to the grocery store and go to pick up medication, and so I do see people around. I think that the stores have done a much better job, and the pharmacies have done a much better job of outlining the 6-foot rule. But I do see a lot more people congregated around than I think the governor's probably comfortable with. And I just don't know how much is getting through to especially younger people. I just read an article as an example, and it wasn't here, but it happened in Texas, where 70 students from the University of Texas at Austin took a trip to Mexico for spring break, and 44 of them came back with the virus. It's like, right. You're not immune. And so I think a lot of people are just not getting that message, and I hope that younger people can step up and stay home also.
Sure. Crystal, don't want to make you speak for your age group. That's not a fair thing to do, but there is a bit...
Call me the token millennial. It's totally fine.
Why we love you, partly. Honestly, Laura makes an interesting point and a good point. There's just lots and lots of young people not getting the message on this. And I've often thought maybe there's just not a lot of leadership out there in millennial world that, meaning maybe like a celebrity or someone to say, look, guys, this is serious. Let's be a little more careful here. What's your sense of that when it comes to younger people? What's going on there?
So about 3 weeks ago, they did ask social media influencers, being the industry that I'm in, they asked social media influencers like Kylie Jenner, Derek Huff, some of the celebrities that you're talking about, to encourage people to stay indoors. I will admit, I'm seeing a completely different story when it comes to millennials. And if anything, we're all freaking out. And, back to that study that you were talking about, I did dig into that to see the source of the study. I'm sorry, it was a marketing agency. It was not only a marketing agency that put that together, but it was a data agency that uses GPS data to compile information for marketing insights. And to me, that study was actually absolutely incorrect, because we are a heavy drive city to get from places like Artesia to Hobbs and Roswell to Jow. And so, of course, the GPS data shows us moving, because that's naturally how we get from point A to point B for our essentials. And so not only do I have a problem with that study, for as long as I know, I don't think it's actually really difficult for a lot of millennials to actually be indoors, because not only do we understand technology well enough where we were already FaceTiming our friends if we miss them, but at the same time too, we can't afford to get out. The joke that I've been using this entire COVID-19 is don't touch your face and don't touch your 401k, because millennials, we don't have a 401k at this point, even if we tried to. So, and not only that, but we've got our student loans, we've got the education that we've got to deal with. So I think the millennial generation has no choice to stay indoors, because our financial pictures right now, it may be better than some, but it definitely isn't better than the generations above us.
That's a fair point. Giovanna, interestingly, the 6-foot rule thing, when I go to the store, it is like, you might as well not even have said it. People are in each other's faces, they're right next to each other. My local store here downtown, however, has taken an extra step. They're having their cashiers wear masks and gloves, and also there's a big plexiglass shield right in front of each cashier. And I'm wondering what you're seeing out there. When I go to different places, I don't see a whole lot of protections for workers out there. What's your sense of that?
Well, to be honest, I have not been going out that much.
Good answer.
I've been staying home. #stay home. But when my husband has gone out to our local grocery store in Nob Hill, the workers are definitely wearing protection. However, I will say when we're out at the, like, you know, we take the dog for a walk, we go to the park, we have a beautiful, great big park near us, which we're so fortunate to have. But the other day we were there and literally half a dozen older people, like over 60 for sure, got out of their vehicles and all exclaimed very loudly what a beautiful park it was. They clearly, you know, weren't from the neighborhood. They were driving in to visit a park, which under other circumstances would be awesome and wonderful. But right now, like doing a big drive to go to another park with like 6 friends, they got picnic stuff out of their truck. They were setting up. So clearly that message is not getting through, you know, to them. As far as, but back to your question about workers, yeah, I haven't really seen a whole lot. We were at a health clinic last week because my son broke his arm, which was really bad timing, but we were there and the receptionists were wearing protective, you know, cover, but like other people weren't. So I think it's a real mix. Certainly I've heard that just in the last week or in the last few days, more and more people are wearing protective covering, but I haven't seen too much of it.
Yeah, interesting. Let's talk about schools and schooling and education. Obviously, we know that schools are closed for the rest of the year. Probably a good idea. You know, it's wise to do that from a public health standpoint, and I don't think most folks would disagree with that. And in fact, starting Monday in partnership with APS, we're going to be starting something here at New Mexico NMPBS called APS at Home. It's going to be education for elementary aged kids every Monday through Friday, starting at 8 a.m. We're very excited to have that partnership with APS. But let me ask you this, Crystal, I'll start with you. You have some youngins there in the home. How do you keep the learning curve going with your kids in a situation like this? What's been your plan?
I don't know if you know of a mom that has the same type of insight. Much appreciated. We talked about independent schools in a previous New Mexico in Focus, and I came from the perspective of being a parent with a kiddo in an independent school. And luckily, we're really grateful at Bosque where our kiddo actually, or the staffalty, being the staff and the faculty, already use Google Classroom. So my perception's a little bit different, but that also is, I'm very much aware with the communities at large that sometimes children just don't have access to education at this point in time. It's one of those things that I think from human nature, we all have to think about what is our priority at the moment right now. And I think that the Department of Education and APS, larger school institutions, are being really forgiving at this point, and that's the right thing to do. And I want to stress the word forgiving because the amount of pressures that's currently on the individual and the family owner, the family, the decision maker within the family, there's so much that's being thrown at them right now, such as unemployment, such as their own personal and physical health, such as, the interest and well-being of their elders, because we all know New Mexico has multiple generations living in one home. And so at this point, it's unfortunate that education has to be something that we take a step back on. But going back to the question of, what do you do to encourage your kids? I think it goes back to remembering that has to be a love of learning to begin with in the home. When kids cry and are upset about going to school in the first place, it's a challenge for us as mothers and also fathers, right? To change the mindset and say, no, school's not just about learning. School's about interacting with fellow students, interacting with mentors and teachers, and getting out in the world and discovering the places in history. And so I think one of the things that, educators just do on a normal basis that now we as parents have to absolutely remind ourselves is we have to have a love of learning so that way we can discipline our kids in a non-disciplinary way to do school in the home. So.
Right. I've seen on Facebook parents reporting lots of kids are crushing books right now, Giovanna. They're like turning into readers, and that comes from, you know, what you see in the home from your parents, all that kind of stuff. What are you guys doing at the Rossi household?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of reading, a lot of chess. We are, so I have an 8-year-old and an almost 11-year-old, and they are, you know, we're really trying to encourage as little screen time as possible, although there still is a lot of screen time because that's just the nature of like online learning and communicating. There's a lot of different things going on that they're not used to, like hanging out with friends online, right? Just with their friends. So they're learning different things. We're doing. My daughter has read like the entire series of what's it called, the Land of Stories, and so she just blew through that. We're doing different kinds of things. I think the message that I want to share is just to take pressure off of parents to have to implement a very, you know, structured learning curriculum at home that is, first of all, it takes up a lot of time to manage that and oversee it and even just delegate it. That's a whole other job. But of course, you know, we have to do that. I'm glad you mentioned the APS PBS partnership, because my kids will be sitting down, my 8-year-old at 10 a.m. on Monday, my 10-year-old is going to sit down at 11 a.m. and do those things Monday through Friday. I think that's great, provide some structure. However, we are doing things like going outside and like watching the squirrel that just appeared in our backyard and like documenting, you know, what is the squirrel doing today? Like learning about the squirrel. So I would encourage different kinds of learning. It doesn't have to be just academic right now. In fact, I would just kind of toss that out, except for the APS piece that we are going to participate in. We're doing a lot more kind of creative offline stuff.
I love it. Laura, I'm going to hold you off on this one since you don't have kids. I won't make it speak for you.
Well, I am on a board of a charter school. I do care about education, but no, I don't have the privilege, and I respect all of you very much for having that.
It's all right. We'll be back with this group to talk about COVID and businesses in just a moment.